So in this video, guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about the abduction of free will from society and how it is going to occur and how it is occurring. So, and I'm going to mostly be linking this into things to do with the legalization of drug substances, and that's going to heavily link into some major writings within fiction, such as Brave New World and things like this. So when we're talking about the abduction of free will or the removal of free will, the opposite of that is determinism. So it's to make you believe that. So how is society going to make you believe that you are a determined animal of instinct and biology that is not of creation from God? So we have to think, okay, instead of a product of nature and product of evolution. So we have to think about, okay, what is society going to value the most? What is going to be its highest value, highest perceived good in its ethical framework of whatever it is? So it's going to believe hedonism is the highest good, right? Pleasure. Consumerism obviously is a very strong indicator of this within Western society, but hedonism is the philosophy that the highest amount of pleasure that I can receive is going to give my life the most amount of meaning and the most amount of joy, and it's going to make my life the best possible way it can be. So of course this is a deception with regards to free will, because if you believe this, then it takes away your free will and that you become instead a slave to products of pleasure and a slave to pleasure itself, which is to reinforce that you are a determined animal. Now, in Brave New World, the dystopian world of Brave New World is built around the glorification of pleasure. That pleasure is the highest good. And this itself, with one of the characters, John, believes that, so of course they're given things like soma pills, and soma pills makes you relaxed. It's a form of pleasure, kind of a hallucinogen. It's kind of, you can conflate it towards what is modern society's form of psychoactive medical drug use. I would say it's something else that I'm going to get to in a minute, which would be the legalization and the changing of the mode of instrument for most illegal substances to something else so that they become legal. We're going to get into that in a minute. But in Brave New World, John believes that soma, which is the pleasure principle, basically, the thing that's going to give pleasure to all of society and that everyone takes in society, deprives people of their free will. Because what it does is it cages people into pleasure that they believe is their only way of escape, and that is their ultimate good. But because it cages people in, it means that under the influence of this extreme form of pleasure, whether through certain forms of highs and all of this type of stuff, the lack of sobriety doesn't give them the ability to break out of the cage that they've been put into, whereby the elites of that world in Brave New World are controlling the individuals and controlling the people through the existence of pleasure by saying it is the highest good. Be pleasured, never leave the pleasure dome, or something, Frankie Goes to Hollywood type of thing, where you're stuck within the pleasure dome, you cannot leave, and by that means they control you because they're saying this is your highest good, you work for pleasure, you work for these things, and we will give that to you, and that will be your form of meaning. Now when we talk about these things, and to claim that we are just determined animals of instinct that love pleasure, this takes away things to do with like reason, our ability to reason. If we are under the influence of pleasure, our ability to reason is lost in some sense. We don't have a sober mind, and we lose discernment. And when we lose discernment through the very only existence of being within pleasure, then we cannot discern our way out of the traps that we've been put into by society. And this is Brave New World. This is how Brave New World is very much built. So we have to look at how is this happening in society now. So of course we have things, this is kind of underground, very much underground, that there isn't much kind of, not much research has been put into these things, but you have things like what I believe, the way this is coming about, that because in our society they want you to believe that pleasure is your ultimate good, consumerism is your ultimate good, and that you live by those principles. What they are doing is they are legalizing drugs via changing the instrument of transaction or mode of consumption. So we see this with things like THC gummies is a very small but powerful example of how they're going to introduce this kind of theoretical idea of soma pills into society, and people are going to latch onto it because as soon as they realize, oh, this is legal to use because the THC they put in these gummies is a synthetically engineered version of what is found within marijuana that makes you high, because that is different and that has been changed, it's legal. So it's a loophole, it's a drug loophole that many companies are going to tap into, that people are going to start taking on board as a replacement for their illegal drug use or whatever it may be. And through bioengineering, through genetic modification, they're going to legalize basically all drugs so that people use it and they can be under the influence of it, because to some extent being under the influence of a certain drug isn't exactly illegal, but the holding of a substance of a certain drug is illegal. So this is how I believe soma, or the idea of soma, is going to be inflicted into society as a form of escapism, as a form of, you could say possibly reprieve or relaxation, or something of this kind. And that this will dominate society, it will dominate the drug world, because synthetically engineered biochemical moleculars within certain drugs will be put into certain products, and then those products will be legal and they will be consumed, and they will put a layer of pleasure over the eyes as a smokescreen for the people in that society, whereby many more corruptions can continue to go on because society is advocating for pleasure being the ultimate good, which takes away your discernment, takes away your ability to reason, or at least it muddies it to the point where you cannot fundamentally look after yourself. You don't have free will. You don't believe that you have free will, because these things will be taken away from you through the acceptance of pleasure as being the highest good in society. And this is Brave New World. This is a form of a tyrannical power, totalitarian societal power, but through a different means, through the means of pleasure, or through the usage of advocating pleasure, and the smokescreen that comes from that, the blurring of boundaries, the blurring of fundamentals, while under such a pleasurable existence, will flatline people's humanity, because they won't believe they have free will. They'll believe, well, these things are of the highest good, therefore they will only exist for those things. So it's very worrying when you think of this type of stuff, because it's the modus operandi. They're changing the modus operandi of drug intake. Not the substance fundamentally. Molecularly the substance is being changed, but they're changing the modus of operation, the mode of operation in which these drugs are being taken in from, and that will fundamentally legalize the epitome of pleasure to completely make people lose their ability to humanistically reason and to use the powers that God has given us to live in a better, more fulfilling world that is more morally aligned to the ultimate good and to the laws in which God has given us, right? So, and of course we have this in other forms as well. We have this with THC vaping, or we have this with the molecular changing of psychedelic substances put into also gummies with things like mushrooms that are legal that you can take. You have, of course, vaping as well, which is an electronic instrument, which is basically, you could say, something of, technological psychoactivity. Your psychoactivity is being activated through technology, that people are literally getting oral fixation of pleasure on a computer that they stick into their mouths, because it's a vaping machine that they charge on a fucking charger in their power socket. This is some extremely worrying things that people need to start thinking about, because they're actually people attaining pleasure by sucking on basically a USB stick. You know, the way that's going to evolve, the way that's going to technologically advance is very worrying. It's very dystopian. It's very, very worrying. And this is how I believe the abduction of free will occur. You have a lot of scientists saying, oh, free will doesn't exist, but they don't give a totalifying, fundamental reason for why I should believe that. They just say, well, you know, you are controlled by your synapses, that you are a biological animal, and all of this, but they can't explain, you know, the origin of consciousness. They can't explain why consciousness is or anything like this. And of course, they try and do away with a lot of things that comes with free will, such as morality, when we talk about these things as well. So, but this is ultimately, this whole thing I'm trying to explain is how I believe free will would be taken from society. It's not because free will doesn't exist. Free will very much exists. But society will take it away from you through these means, so that you don't have discernment, so that you accept corruption, because ultimately you believe that pleasure is the ultimate good. And if you are attaining pleasure of any kind, then that means your life is of its you are living your life at its highest value. And this is corruption. This is the going against of free will, morality, things of this kind. All those things will be chucked out the window in a society like that. That's basically the description of Brave New World, the fiction book. And this is also what I believe will come of society in the Western world in probably the next 10 years. Next 5 years even. And if people want to look into this type of stuff, where the legalization of drugs is happening simply by the changing of its instrument of transaction, of how you consume the substance, look into things like THC gummies, look into vape pens that, again, have THC A or THC B or whatever it is that's molecularly changed within its substance. And there's going to be probably expansions upon that with different types of drugs, and it's going to just go under the radar. People are just going to accept it, and they're probably going to replace it down the line, and it's going to affect society in a massive way. So tell me what you guys think of this, the abduction of free will. How do you believe it is occurring? Do you believe in free will? Do you not? And of course, if you want to sign up for a free one-on-one call with me, where we'll talk about things with regards to procrastination, or if you're struggling with these types of things, procrastination, bad habits, you want to break bad habits, you want to formulate new ones that are better for you, that are going to make your life better, then drop in for a free discovery call with me. We can run through the whole system and how my coaching system works with regards to those things, and we can see how we can work in the future if that is a possible match that suits us both. So thanks for watching this video, guys. Make sure to share it around, give it a like, comment your thoughts down below. It's always good, it helps the algorithm out, and I will speak to you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.